about the major hydropower projects, procurement in Africa. Engineer Manda of TANESCO, Tanzania National Electricity Supply Company of Tanzania, who made the presentation. He discussed about some existing projects in Africa, but sampled the Julius Nyerere hydropower project in Tanzania and explained a bit about it, the startup and the completion date. He did discuss about challenges experienced during the procurement process, so you remember from his presentation. Then the paper which followed was by Dr. Mlinga, who talked about contracts management, the challenges and the way forward. He did emphasize that it is the contract management is an important aspect in the procurement of projects. What need to be in place to ensure successful contract management? He asked of that, and he mentioned that there are two stages of project. That's during the procurement stage and during implementation stage. He did mention some few things on each of the stages, just to ensure that the contract is moving well. And of course, he noted that the variations and time extensions may be a reason of unrealistic planning. And maybe after the variations, the extension, then that is actually what should have been the realistic timing and cost of the project. He did talk of the need to increase the weighting of contract management on evaluating of value for money aspect when carrying out audits of project in the procurement. He cited challenges faced in contract management, which included the delayed payments to service providers. He also talked of delayed commencement of projects due to delayed procurement processes, and also technical skills of people who do projects. The final paper, which was presented during the session 2, was the opening governance principles in public procurement. Mr. Turamya of PPDA Uganda presented this paper. He did talk of the importance of public accessing project information for effective oversight. He discussed a bit about steps taken by Uganda to fulfill this aspect, which includes introducing the incentive listed procurement, decentralized, introducing the decentralized procurement system in Uganda. So that was a discussion, and he did talk of Uganda having an act actually on public access to information, which Tanzania also added, saying Tanzania has also that act for public access to information. The forum was adjourned at about 17:45 hours, and people moved to a cocktail party, which took place in the same premises. A lot of drinks were there. For those who didn't come, you should know. We had a good cultural dance, and music. The DJ had various musics mostly from the East African countries. And I believe you all enjoyed the cocktail party. The water-mouthing snacks were there, and we do hope now most of you will join in the gala dinner today so that you don't miss the same opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a brief on the recap on what transpired yesterday. I believe I've captured the main issues, and definitely the resolutions which we will be discussing tomorrow will also include a number of things which were raised and discussed during these sessions of yesterday. Thank you very much for your attention, and we will now proceed with the other part of the conference. Thank you. Unless there is any point of clarification or anybody wanting to add up on whatever you think is an important thing missed in my presentation of the recap of yesterday, I don't see any hand raised, so I will proceed. And now I will introduce to you the chairperson of the session, this session which starts this time. The chairperson will be Mr. Augustus Seminega. He has been the CEO of the Rwanda Public Procurement Authority for 12 years, and he formerly was the head of a local government development agency in Rwanda. He has been involved in public procurement reforms in Rwanda and has participated in most of the last procurement forums, in the public procurement forums. Of the 12, I don't know how many, maybe 10 or so forums he did participate. So he's very conversant and knows what goes out of the forums. He holds a BSc in Economics and Statistics from Makerere University in Kampala, but he also graduated, he has a diploma in procurement from Maastricht School of Management in the Netherlands. So could we all please welcome Mr. Seminega to chair this session. Karibu sana. He is 10% knowledgeable of Swahili, 90% is French and Rwandese. Karibu sana. Please, take the floor.
Good morning. Thank you very much and welcome to the morning session. We are starting it a bit late, 20 minutes past the designated time. This is an important session in public procurement because the topics are those that are more visible than the rest of the aspects of public procurement. If anything is lacking in these topics, everyone becomes aware of it and they will talk about it. And if nothing is lacking, nobody is going to say anything. So these topics are enhancing integrity and accountability in public procurement. Topic number 2 is how to enhance value for money in public procurement. And topic number 3 is the involvement of non-state actors in public procurement. And with me here to present the topics, we have Mr. Jean-Claude Ndikumana, who will be presenting the first topic, and Dr. Lola Shilima, who will be presenting the second topic, and Mr. Gilbert Sendugwa, who will be presenting the third topic. I will present each of the speakers before they begin presenting their topics. But before I present the first speaker, allow me to inform you that each presenter will be allowed 20 minutes, theoretically. But since we have started a bit late, I would like to kindly request the speakers to try and make their presentations in 15 minutes. And if the speaker has gone the 15 minutes, I will be raising this pen to alert him that they should be finalizing their presentations. So now, for the first presentation, which is enhancing integrity and accountability in public procurement, the presenter is Mr. Jean-Claude Ndikumana. Mr. Jean-Claude Ndikumana holds a bachelor's degree in law with a master's degree in entrepreneurship and projects management. He has been appointed the Director General of PPRA Burundi since May 2019. And he has many publications on corruption and local development. Over to you, Mr. Ndikumana.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Our topic is enhancing transparency and accountability in public procurement. And I would like to call upon Mr. Said, who is the Finance and Administrative Director of Mutual Health Insurance for Public Workers in Burundi, to present on my behalf. So welcome.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, once again, good morning. I'm humbly honored by my fellow here to present on his behalf, just for purposes of convenience, this topic on enhancing transparency and accountability in public procurement. I will first address the keywords appearing in this topic, namely accountability, being the obligation of an individual or organization to account for its activities, accept responsibility for them, and to disclose the results in a transparent manner. It also includes the responsibility for money or other entrusted property. The other keyword is transparency here, meaning firstly, lack of hidden agendas and conditions accompanied by the availability of full information required for collaboration, cooperation, and collective decision-making. Secondly, it also stands for minimum degree of disclosure to which agreements, dealings, practices, and transactions are open to all for verification. And thirdly, it also stands for essential condition for a free and open exchange, whereby the rules and reasons behind regulatory measures are fair and clear to all participants. Transparency can be defined as timely, easily understood access to information. It assists in ensuring that any deviations from fair and equal treatment are detected very early and makes such deviations less likely to occur. It protects the integrity of the process and the interests of the organization, stakeholders, and the public. I will now tackle access to information. Procurement should provide access to reliable information about the activities of the procurement organization. This is a key safeguard against corruption and aids in the improvement of competition and the relationships between procurement and stakeholders. This should be done by, firstly, creating and publishing annual reports of procurement activities and spending in a format that is accessible and easy to understand. It should also be done by providing stakeholders and the public access to current, up-to-date information about procurement processes, procedures, and policies. Procurement should also provide access to reliable information about the activities of the procurement organization. And this is a key safeguard against corruption, as it helps in the improvement of competition and the relationships between procurement stakeholders. Access to information is also providing for stakeholders and the public access to information pertaining to proposed changes in the procurement processes, procedures, and policies. It also provides all bidders, offerers, and the public with easy and timely access to information about, first, solicitation, tender opportunities, second, selection criteria, and third, evaluation process, fourth, rules governing the award decision and its justification, the terms and conditions of the contract and any amendments thereto, contract administration, the role of intermediaries and agents, and protests and dispute settlement mechanisms and procedures. Should also be providing equivalent information for all procurement transactions and contracts, and making sure that the information is accessible to the whole public. And at the same time, it should limit confidentiality to legally protected information only. Now let me come to transparency in Burundi public procurement. Advised to use a pointer. With the scroll button. Okay. Okay. I was addressing procurement, the transparency in Burundi public procurement. Procurement should strengthen relationships with the supplier community through transparent practices, as enshrined in Act number 1/4 of January 29, 2008, I think, amending the Act number 1/01 of February 4, 2008 on public procurement. These practices include, but are not limited to, I'm talking about the case of Burundi, A, clearly expressed, readily available regulations, policies, and procedures. B, complete, timely, and accurate information, and equal access and opportunity to all qualified suppliers in a manner that no insiders when it comes to accessing public procurement information or the opportunity to do business with government. And specifications do not limit competition. And not also that under no circumstances should a competing vendor be allowed to write the specification for a procurement. That is what is provided for under that act. Open and frequent communication between procurement and the supplier community. Education opportunities for vendors, suppliers at regularly held information sessions or expos. Standardization of procurement documents, including bids, quotes, proposals, and registration documents. And these documents include specific details regarding the procurement method and use specifications of the requirement goods, works, or services, required time frame for bid submissions, closing date, date and time for receiving and opening bids, any appropriate fees required to be paid to receive bid documents. Procurement organizations must provide adequate resources and accurate information to employees in order to achieve a sustainable, transparent procurement process, which may include identifying proposed legislation, regulations, and/or international agreements that will guide affect transparency-related requirements for the organization. Complying with existing legislation, regulations, and international agreements that guide transparency-related requirements for the organization itself. And also allocating the financial and human resources necessary to undertake an entity assessment of the procurement organization's transparency friendliness. It also identifies and requests the financial and human resources necessary to establish a systems solution that supports transparency, developing policies and procedures for staff to declare any outside employment as an obligation, because in some cases, outsiders may be involved in different fields of employment, one of which may or be interested in one of the procurement processes underway. So they've got that duty to declare any outside employment, so in order to avoid the conflict of interests. It's also requiring disclosure of conflict of interest from anybody in the procurement process, including both internal and external staff or consultants. Accountability in public procurement means that anyone involved in the procurement process is responsible for their actions and decisions with respect to the public procurement process. As public servants, procurement practitioners involved in the public procurement process, they are accountable and exposed to sanctions as a remedy for any behavior that contravenes the public procurement rules and regulations. They also have an obligation to report or answer to a designated oversight entity, that is the State General Control and Auditor, the Anti-Corruption Court and its brigade, and the public at large on the consequences of their actions and decisions, if at all they are mischievous. The public sector accountability is not led by any one agency, but a range of entities, agencies, and institutions. In a nutshell, transparency and accountability in Burundi public procurement system is guaranteed through separation of missions assigned to public procurement control and regulating commissions as provided for under Article 15 and others of the above mentioned code. This separation is meant to avoid incompatibilities in managing public procurement whose organs are 3 in number. The organ in charge of management in public procurement matters in every contracting authority to plan and prepare calls for bidders, to ensure consultations, observation, and monitoring public procurement procedures. That is one organ. And the control organ, that is the National Public Procurement Board, whose missions and powers are determined by presidential decree and Article 21 of the Public Procurement Code. And it's worth to note also that the Public Procurement Control and Regulation Authority, as provided for under Article 28 of the Code, is vested with powers to supervise and ensure that public procurement rules and regulations are strictly adhered to by all public entities. That's the law in Burundi. So worth to note that all public institutions' procurement provisional plans are published in a government magazine with a wide range of accessibility, both national and international. The same applies to calls for bids that can also be consulted on the public procurement website. So this is how public procurement process
present your presentation in the 15 minutes as requested. So our next presentation, which is how to enhance value for money in the procurement process, is going to be delivered by Dr. Lola Shrima. And Dr. Lola Shrima is a senior lecturer at the Department of Structural and Construction Engineering at the University of Dar es Salaam. Dr. Lola Shrima was the Chief Executive Officer of the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority of the Republic of Tanzania from 2014 to 2018. And prior to that, he was the Director for Capacity Building and Advisory Services in the same institution. And he has been, and before that, he had worked as a senior lecturer at the same university. Dr. Shrima has a wide experience as a consultant in structural and construction engineering, as well as public procurement. He played a key role in modernizing public procurement in Tanzania with the objective of encouraging public procurement function as a core process. And he also, among the things that he did, is to participate in the designing and developing and implementation of the electronic procurement. Dr. Lola Shrima, sir.
Thank you. Procurement process and look at where we can enhance achievement of value for money, and finally give some concluding remarks. Effective contract management, I would like to repeat what has been said yesterday. We need a constructive relationship with the suppliers. We need to monitor delivery, quality, and I think the time was limited.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shrima. And in fact, he has been on time, despite my having to raise the pen. And Resource Center promoting citizens' rights to information in Africa. He works on key topics such as open government, open contracting, social accountability, and citizen access to information. Graduate in project planning and management and a BA in social work and social administration. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be speaking about the role of non-state actors. Now, the question is, why should civil society or non-state actors be concerned in monitoring public contracts? So this was So neither citizens nor the government were seeing the outcome of that spending. So our work through the Uganda Coalition was actually to work under and that's what was the result. Again, also as a way of background, in 2012, the Inspectorate of Government issued a report as you can see, these issues affect not just value for money, but also value for people, as the President put it. Now, public contracting and when these happen, they undermine the confidence and trust. And this eventually is factored in the cost of and there is better value for money and money in public contracts. What we see as key government incentive for reform and also salaries for teachers, all teachers by 15%, and also the main problems in the health sector. And legislation also was relatively strong. However, disclosure and public participation Now, government had since 2015 started proactively disclosing information on procurements, and Benson talked about that yesterday. But were able to access this information in usable formats. Also, more agencies were registered on the government procurement . Effective contract monitoring. Let me quickly go to some of the findings from our monitoring. the issue of diversion we found was quite strong. Diversion. Second, we also saw disproportionate use of non-competitive methods, while eventual price in the contract, this was in a number of instances within 1% margin. Now, considering that bid found instances of fraud and also collusion. The two documents are from different companies. Existed. Now, we also saw agricultural sector projects we found abandoned. Okay, this is dumping because information flow is not strong. Of the locations in Ntungama district. Unplanned supply of inputs, again, this picture shows dumping. The contracts on the ground, but payments had been completed. So we thank and also allowed us to analyze large volumes of by sector. We can do trends, especially since 2005, 15 when disclosure started on the government procurement portal. We can identify analyze and come up with findings that using this information, we have created dashboards which allow us to analyze this data, and this is linked to the government procurement portal. So we can quickly determine which agencies are transparent. We can also show where government is spending most of its funds. We have linked the government procurement portal with the budget portal, so we're able to see both things. data from two portals. We can also see, analyze quickly, the average number of bids per tender, who is controlling the market, the entities. What are the most procured items? We can also see from these dashboards where bidders are most likely to bid or are bidding most, proportion of contracts won by local firms as opposed to international ones, where there are long delays in contract negotiations and award, average price market, bid period shorter than 7 days, among other things. There are 3, that constructive engagement is effective in bringing strong results and partnership between civil society and government. You know, in many environments, including ours,
we can use 10 more minutes to receive and answer the remaining questions. There are still so many, so we cannot possibly be able to answer all of them. So we shall get 2 from this side, 2 from this side, and then the rest will be asked and answered. This participant and the other one from the other side, and then this participant and this participant from this side. Sorry for that.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. My name is Adori Akatwera from Uganda. I want to thank all the presenters. This is really a very good session. My question or my comment goes to Gilbert. Gilbert, thank you for a good job that you are doing to monitor performance of contracts. But I'm wondering on how far you go to monitor stakeholders that affect the procurement process, and therefore that affect accountability, transparency, and value for money. I want to give you an example. Yes, we shall start the procurement process, but in between, there are other stakeholders. For example, the Office of the Solicitor General, they do clear contracts. But most implementing agencies will agree with me that they affect efficiency in a way or another. I don't know whether during your monitoring, you stop at entity level or you go as far as checking how they affect the processes. Also, the donors, when they are there to give no objections on some projects, there is how. Also, it takes long, but the blame goes back to implementing agencies. The offices of government, chief government valuers offices, for example, those that have to clear people affected by projects. When you submit PAPs, sometimes they take 2 years or to give you values. And to some extent, it's not like they are made, but they affect the procurement process. At the end of that day, you'll find a project that was estimated at a certain value is being implemented at a higher value. But you as a monitoring agency or a non-stakeholder in the procurement process, you review the entity as if it is really going beyond the budget. But there is a road that affects the procurement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ibo Edward from Tanzania. My question is direct to Dr. Shirima on value for money. Please, Doctor, can you give us a picture where exactly the value for money is undermined? Because the process of procurement is long, but there is a certain point where the value for money starting to take place. I can give you an example. You can find one contractor perform 2 projects to the different clients, but at the client A, perform well, at the client B, is not performing. So you need to give us a critical point where value for money is detriment, because sometimes we get a good contractor, poor performance. You can get a good contractor, good performance. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your leadership. Also thank the presenters of the day. I have a comment. And it's based on the fourth industrial revolution, what we are talking, and maybe what we are talking here. They are talking about robotics technology. They are talking about artificial intelligence. They are talking about big data. Now, I want to speak about the two, big data and artificial intelligence, in relation to what we are talking about. I'm impressed by engineer for the submission on value for money. But what value for money is based on accurate data. Another thing we are not talking about here. What is the cost? What are the returns on these things? Yesterday, we had another great presentation about hydro power dam. And I was wondering how many Tanzanians are employed on this project in terms of data. How many? Do we have them? How much are they paid? Nobody knows. So how do we talk about value for money when we don't have this basic data? In my country, in my organization, I made a self-assessment of how many contracts are awarded, local versus foreign. Interesting information I got. 95% of the contracts that were awarded in the last financial year, 95% were awarded to local firms in Uganda. And that's, someone could quickly say, congratulations, isn't it? But look at this. 5% of foreign bidders share 96% of value of the contract that I awarded. Look at that. Now, what are we doing? Why don't we talk about these big things also? Look at, if we aggregated all running contracts today in East Africa, their total value, and how they are benefiting East African people. How many people are employed in the running contracts today? How many are benefiting out of this stuff? And look at this, the revenue is generated by African, by local East African people. But what extent are they benefiting out of this stuff? Nobody knows. Mr. Chairman, I want us to be advised, well, how we're running the function secretariat for East African Procurement Forum. We've made a number of resolutions in this forum. How many are they? What has been implemented? What has impacted on our people? We don't have that data, most likely. So it's my prayer, colleagues and friends, that instead of talking some few big things that seem great, and we miss this simple detail that we want, we should focus on these important things that doesn't need a donor to finance. The second thing is that we are over, I think we are limiting the impact of procurement to economies. When you come to such kind of forum, we talk about corruption, transparency. Procurement is not corruption. And in fact, there is a colleague of mine who asked the measure of integrity, the measure of corruption. It's not clear. Nobody has a standard measure, right? We don't know even in the last 10 years whether we have reduced or increased, or it was more open, but now it is sanctified.
Can we summarize, please?
That we can't get these facts right, okay? So can we, instead of focusing too much on how to increase the brakes, the capacity, the regulations, the policies to ensure that there is transparency, can also talk about how we can improve the efficiency of the engine to deliver more and impact on our people of West Africa. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The last person from this side, I had already indicated who that person should be.
Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, presenters. I have only a minor question, goes to the DG of ARPM. I want to know, for the benefit of this gathering, I want to know the number of principles of procurement in Burundi. For our public procurement act has got 80 principles of public procurement, which are the accountability, integrity, efficiency, economy, transparency, value for money, and equity. This is according to section 4A of the Public Procurement Act number 7/2011, which has been amended in 2016 through the Act number 5. The second is not a question, is advice to Dr. Shirima. Before my advice is better to construct the reason of wanting to have the advice. According to his presentation, it shows that the value for money is needed to be realized at the stage of evaluating the tenders, and not at the opening of infrastructure. The United Republic of Tanzania has already defined the value for money through Section 3 of the Public Procurement Act number 7/2011, and also Section 4A, subsection 3. It is clear, so it is up to practitioners to create criteria how to evaluate, to show that there is a value for money in this procurement. Not at the end, not at the opening of infrastructure. Before, there was a contradiction. Leaders were translating value for money for their ends, but now the value for money is clearly defined by the law. But what is missing is the criteria to promote evaluation using a quantitative approach. The current approach of evaluating tenders in Tanzania is quantitative, except for the consultants. The guideline of public procurement regulatory authority is qualitative approach and not quantitative. If the guideline for evaluating tenders is going to be like the presentation of Dr. Shirima, there will be a minimization of risks, especially to the staff under the PMUs, because most of
leaders, it could be maybe the offerer who is not satisfied by the process, or it may also be the contracting authority who is not satisfied by the way the contractors are executing the contracts they have signed with it. So the authority, the specific authority which is addressing those issues is this organ. So there are two skills, being the anti-corruption court, tackling corruption cases arising from the procurement process, and also this authority, l'autorité de régulation des marchés publics, addressing all petty matters arising from the public procurement in various institutions of the country. Thank you. Or maybe before I submit, Mr. Chair, I have overlooked one part of the question asked by my fellow there again. She asked the status of the decisions of the anti-corruption courts. The anti-corruption decisions, the anti-corruption court decisions in Burundi are binding. They have a binding force. There is no appeal. No appeal. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Evo asked a question about where in the procurement process is value for money mostly achieved. And I think I'll try to answer this by giving him an example. Take, for example, the case of infrastructure development. We have various stages of infrastructure development. You have the feasibility study, you have the design stage, you have the construction stage, and then operation and maintenance of the structure. Now, if the design is not done well, it can have a very serious impact on the operation and maintenance. First of all, on the construction itself, there could be a lot of problems, but also on the operation and maintenance of the infrastructure facility. If you look at the costs involved at the design stage, it would be less than 3% of the total cost of that infrastructure facility. The construction of that would be less than 20% sometimes, or less than 25%. Then the rest will be the cost during the use of that. But the costs arise out of a decision that was made upstream, wrong decision that was made upstream. Similarly, in procurement, all steps are important, but I was focusing on critical steps in the procurement cycle, where if you make the right decisions, you can enhance the chance of making, of achieving value for money. Yes, if you look at the spending, you spend more when executing the when implementing the contract, because that's when you pay for the services or you pay for the construction that has been delivered. But there were decisions which will determine how much you pay. So in value for money, we talk about spending less, we talk about spending well, and we talk about spending wisely. So I think that is a response to Mr. Evo. From Uganda, we heard about the data. Yeah, I agree with you that basic data is very important to be able to tell how much, how successful have we been in achieving value for money. But I would like to paint to be so pessimistic as we put it. I think through these meetings, we can devise means of enhancing capacity in that area. The last one was asking me to liaise with PPRI on development of new evaluation guidelines. Well, we take it, but I think